Hello, hello. First, let me just introduce you to this music that I have the right to play when I do live streaming. It's from Daniel Roberts, a musician from England who is actually living in Rio de Janeiro and Brazil. And he's a piano teacher and he's a amazing musician. And this piece is called Meditation One. You can find it, of course, on most streaming networks. So I'm back today because I'm really inspired by what is happening now. This is just a really poignant time. And so I thought I needed to have a second day, consecutive second day, which is very rare for me. So let's get to it. And turning the music down. Hi, my name is Chapeau Claudette. I'm also known as AKA Cloudette because I love looking up in the day to clouds and in the night, of course, stargazing. Okay, so why am I talking about stargazing and looking up in clouds on my AKA Skystrology YouTube channel and on my IG channel and on Periscope? It is because that when I was 19, I had an astrologer in New York. I'm American. And she said some things to me that made me really enthusiastic about astrology. And I bought an ephemeris and I wanted to know all the time where the planets were. She told me at the time that I would become a designer, and I have become a hat designer. I wasn't planning on being a hat designer. I actually wanted to be a photojournalist. But as it goes, I was in a fashion school when I met her. And yeah, so that's worked out to that. Kind of forward 30 years. And then I was asked to do a course on astrology. And when now it was digital. So the books I had, I thought were out of date. So I started doing some research online and found that actually the ephemeris I was carrying around didn't have the actual dates. And I was a bit confused because, of course, what she said was true, but she was also a very well versed psychologist. And what's really important to note, there's two things about astrology, Western astrology. One is that the aspects are always the same. Aspects is the distance between the planets, the heavenly bodies. So that is always the same no matter what calculations that you make, Vedic or sky astrology or Western astrology. And secondly, Western astrologers use what they call progress charts. So they use 1 degree per year for the sun, and that progresses it into the next sign, which is actually most times than likely the actual placement of the chart. So the natal chart, or where the planets are. So I am not, someone who wants to address the validity of astrology. That's just not my purpose. I just want to share with you my experience and be a voice for the times that we are in now, which are totally different from astrology when it was kind of in the 60s and 70s until now, because now we have the tools to verify where the heavenly bodies are. We need to use the language to make it clear what we are talking about when we are helping people make real decisions in their lives. Also, we have people who are working a lot with energy, like Reiki healers, coaches, meditation. There's a whole selection of kind of healers and energy workers that need to know what energies are actually present in their sphere, and the client as well, the people that they're working with. Of course, you can do it intuitively because we can always do things, intuitively and handmade. We are just in the time where we have all this development and all these special tools and technology with us that we want to do them better. I mean, nobody's asking you to be a robot. Nobody's asking you to do it AI. In these holistic practices, we do need to integrate. And that's what my big thing is, integrating what we have at our fingertips now, what technology has added to the mix, and still keeping in a way, like a respect for the ancient wisdom, for the origin of whatever practices we are thinking of, in psychology or, astrology or metaphysics, all these things had their origin somewhere, and I like to respect that. Which brings me to the origin of Skystrology. And that's something that I made up because it was in Egypt when I was there. When looking up at the sky at night, I could recognize the constellations as the zodiac constellations as I knew them, but they weren't aligning with what Western astrology said. Now, I had started that thing where I thought, okay, what's going on? Why isn't it the same? And it was all mathematical, or the farmer's almanac told you where the moon was, but I had not yet found, and I was searching to find where all the other heavenly bodies were. In any event, my time in Egypt gave me the possibility to daily see how the moon and the sun really move across the sky. And not only the sun and the moon, but more importantly, the stars. Not just the stars or the constellations, but the particular stars in particular constellations, and particular stars that are not in constellations. And so by that experience of the sky, this majestic sky above me, rising out of the Red Sea in southern Egypt every day, seeing the moon rise, seeing the constellations come first and, dance across the sky is the best way I can explain this beautiful sight. I have become convinced, along with some very, meticulous research, using apps, using calculations, using people in the public eye, as scholars as well, and comparing birth dates and finding certain realities and truths that I could kind of calculate and, think that this is some kind of pattern. So now we have, right now I'm coming to you live, not live, but I'm going to put it up live, but I'm coming to you at the time that actually the moon, that's just been the new moon that I did the broadcast for yesterday, is coming at the end of the constellation of Cancer. And Cancer only has 20 degrees of the ecliptic. So right now, the moon is at 20 degrees of the ecliptic, and it will go into Leo. Leo is a big constellation. I have stargazed at Leo. It is so amazing. And there's a really shining star, quite a few, but the one that is well known in the history of ancient times is the one called Regulus. And it is about 9 to 10, 11 degrees of Leo, sorry. Okay, so since the moon moves 1 degree every 2.5 hours, that is an estimate. Sometime tomorrow we should see, or late tomorrow we will see the moon conjunct Regulus. Now the reason I've come on is because there's a special time that is starting at 21:47 GMT time. Is called Void of Moon. And some people know about that. But when I was learning about it 30 years ago, they were just like, this is a new thing. Everybody's just observing. And I call myself always an observer. But I've been able to observe that in my own life, particularly because I was born during this time. And what this time is when the moon does not make those aspects that I spoke about that are, important in all kinds of observation of the stars and the different methods, does not make a significant connection to another heavenly body. Significant connections are 0 degrees distance between the moon and another planet, 60 degrees, 90 degrees, 120 degrees, or 180 degrees, okay? And this happens ever so often, so, rarely. And it happens, they say, before it leaves another star sign. I've observed it and I know there is some validity to it. I have tried to not buy things when I know 100% that it is called void of moon, because I don't usually use them, or a lot of times you might have an intent to use it for one thing, but you end up using it for another. But basically the intent at the time tends to change, okay? So that's why, we wonder. But finally, a few years ago, I was able to manifest and use that time. It's a good time to help others, meditate, listen, tidy up, you know, relax a lot of ways. Biodynamic farmers are conscious of this time and they do take a break, because if they would use that time to plant or sow, that it would not be a profitable crop. And so this is a really special time in a way as well, because the moon is quite busy and it's moody, and it's the fastest and closest heavenly body that we have in our solar system. And so why not take a little break? The moon is taking a break from being interactive with another energy and another frequency, because all the planets and heavenly bodies do have a frequency. Okay, so this is starting at 2147, which is, like I said, in a couple of hours. But right now, that is based on Western astrology, mind you, okay? Because Western astrology is saying that the moon is actually in Virgo, and that it is going to, no, in Leo, and that it's going to then go into Virgo, where actually the moon is in the end of Cancer and it's going to go into Leo, and actually it is going to be conjunct the Mars, this at 1 degree. So astronomically speaking, the moon is not really void, okay? But we have to acknowledge that in that tomorrow is a day where a lot could happen, but I don't want you to sweat the small stuff, because for most of the day tomorrow, the moon will not make an aspect to any heavenly body. It will, though, and this is why I want to come on and why I want to be an observer and have you be observer with me. It will, however, make a connection to Regulus, which people don't usually acknowledge. It's not a heavenly body, planet, or anything, but it is in our solar system. And it is a very big star. It is, I don't know how many times bigger than our sun. And as I like to say, our sun is also a star. So these stars are interacting. I believe that it does have an effect. And in ancient times, it is known to have an effect. Regulus. And because first we have our moon that's coming out of this watery energy, the new moon as well, on the last day of stationary Mercury that's been retrograde and now it's going to go straight, we like to acknowledge this shift, this change of energy. And the best way to do that is to slowly get into it. And first kind of saying, being grateful, like people say, gratitude is an amazing thing. So kind of be grateful for where the energy was. The moon was taking us home. The moon was in Cancer. The moon let us be emotional and care about things and do things that we care about. Now our moon is going to slowly go into a hot place, hot area not only because it's Leo, but because Mars is there as well, and Mars belongs to Aries, okay? And let's just look at it technically. I like to say elementary and alchemically without getting like predicting what's going to happen. Yeah. Okay. So, first things first, we have first, being gratitude. We know what we want, we know what we care about. If you've taken time to think, what do I really care about? And being emotional and experiencing the water and the feeling. And now you're coming into a fire energy, and fire is about intuition, it's about wanting things, igniting things, a desire, and seeing, being inspired by something and being creative as well by things. So, it is a totally different energy. And so normally when you come from one place to another, you're just like, well, let me see what's going on here first. You don't have to just jump right into the fire, right? Because that's just going to take all your moisture away. You're going to just like be on the side, and say, okay, what's going on here? And look at it discerningly. And at the same time, you're going to maybe be challenged by this Mars energy that has already kind of made the shift, because Mars went before and it's been in the fire energy for a couple of days already. It's at 1 degree of Leo and doesn't move as fast as the moon. So it's been there and it belongs to fire. So it's like, oh, I'm so happy. Actually, it's happy to be out of Cancer. And so, it's happy, this energy, to be in the fire energy of Leo. Okay. And so with that, we have to say, okay, our moon, our moods, needs, in a way, can respect that and kind of acknowledge the creative, the inspiration, the energy, like the Mars drive, what it wants to do. But we've just kind of received not only the information of our emotional needs by moon in Cancer and the new moon in Cancer, but also we have acknowledged what is important to us as far as Mercury retrograde, going over and rethinking things and information of what ideas we might have had. And this was in Gemini, and what communication, a lot of people waiting to do things, really thinking and curious about things. So it's always the curiosity killed the cat. You're curious to see how these things work out. I've been thinking about these things. I've figured out pretty much what I want to do. I know, what I feel. I know what I want, what I'm curious about. Now all I have to do is do it, right? But I say wait. I do say wait, and I say because of the interaction of all of the elements. And the most important thing to note, let me say to you, is this. At this time, we don't have any elements in Earth. And Earth is the element that really materializes things, and it's really useful. And, that's really good to wait for that energy to come. And it's coming in the longest bit in Virgo, right after Leo, okay? So it's just a few days to wait. So what do we do if we're waiting? So I had these things. I was thinking C, because I'm all about ABCs, and I've got a course coming up, ABC. But here is C, because C we use for Cancer and care, to take care of what our emotional needs, to take care of our family, take care of our home. And the next C we using in Leo is create, because Leo is the most creative sign, and we want to create. We know that we have ideas, we just burning to get them started and to do. But we need to wait for the earth energy to complete that, to complete the balance of the elements. And that is coming in the Virgo. And Virgo is very precise, quite critical, and will give you a higher quality of what you want to do, as long as you kind of tick the boxes before. Now, I've talked about the water of Cancer, the fire of Leo, and the earth of Virgo coming up at the end of the week. But what I haven't talked about in relationship to element, but it's there, is our Mercury, which is the air. So we have all those four elements there. The Mercury is in air. The moon was in Cancer where it belongs. So it's always holding that water, holding that space. And then we have the fire of Leo where the moon will be moving into, but we have Mars there as well, who's happy there because it's happy in fire because it belongs to Aries. Okay. And also once the moon moves into Virgo, it can connect as well, really well, with the air, with the ideas, what you're curious about, what you want to know is going to work out, because Mercury understands not only Gemini but also Virgo. And that is the beauty of like not rushing in and, doing stuff that needs to slow down. Just because Mercury's going straight tomorrow doesn't mean we just like jump from the gun and start doing things really quick. We need to be grateful and appreciate what came before, what we learned, where we've been, what we can gather together and make and strategize to go forward, and to be able to do that in the right way when we have the energy of Virgo. And the moon is like the satellite moving the energies for us, as it does for the plants to grow. Ask any biodynamic farmer. So I think this is long enough. Goodness, it's 21 minutes already. Thank you so much for listening. I'm getting really excited about doing these little segments. I want them to be shorter, actually. So yeah, if you have any questions, please comment below and subscribe. Thank you. I got a subscriber yesterday. How kind. Have a fantastic day tomorrow. Remember, it's a lot of void. Keep thinking, keep being inspired. If things don't go as planned, don't sweat the small stuff. And I would hesitate to buy or do, like I don't go out buying things. I think about them. It's a good time to really observe. It's a really observant time tomorrow, and to just see how much inspiration you can get from not having to put something into motion, but just being inspired by it. Yeah, the putting into motion, the materializing, the doing comes with the earth energy, which will be in a few days after. Mwah! Take care of yourselves, and until next time, it's AKA Cloud, because I love clouds and looking up. Keep looking up, people. As above, so below.